creatures which can live in the water and come out onto the land. Amphibians usually begin life in a water-dwelling larval state, such as a tadpole, which uses its gills to breathe underwater. As the tadpoles grow, change and metamorphosize, they usually lose their gills and their ability to be fully aquatic. There are a few exceptions, such as the axolotl, but that's a whole other creature feature.
This alien intruder is plundering the Australian outback. He'll eat anything, and he's built to eat fast and often. His tongue can shoot out to catch prey at around 3 meters per second. Even his eyeballs are designed to help force food down his gullet. But any predator that sinks its teeth into a cane toad will get a nasty surprise. One bite can release deadly defensive venom. Spread under his warty skin and concentrated in 2 glands on his back is a toxic cocktail of poisons potent enough to kill a crocodile. As a result of natural selection favouring the fastest, most mature toads on the front line are almost 20% larger than average, and they have much longer legs. It was time for the toads to breed. Cane toad courtship is a long-winded affair. It begins with the males giving a moonlight serenade. Their close harmony crooning attracts the ladies, who find a good singing voice irresistible. Once partnered up, the male sticks his fingers into the female's armpits, locking in tight for what could be a long haul. He must stay firmly attached to prevent any other male getting a look in. He might have to wait several hours for the female to be ready, but nothing will distract him from his task. At daybreak, he's still hanging in there. And once in water, the importance of a good hold becomes clear. Finally, the female releases her eggs, and the dogged male fertilizes them as they drift into the water. Mission accomplished. Unlike native frogs, who lay between 1,000 and 2,000 eggs, the female cane toad is capable of producing 15 times as many, up to 30,000 eggs, each one a potential toad. The spawn develops at breakneck speed. The eggs take only 3 days to turn into tadpoles. And the tadpoles only 4 weeks to become air-breathing metamorph toads. The speed at which they mature alone would give the cane toad plague potential. But there's more. The eggs, tadpoles and metamorphs are all full of venom. Every stage is toxic to potential predators. Australian pond dwellers attempting to eat the poisoned tadpoles or eggs sometimes realise their mistake and spit them out. Those who persevere generally pay the price. But one of the best controls of toad numbers appears to be the toad itself. It turns out that Bufo is a voracious cannibal. Immune to their own venom, adults gorge themselves on juveniles. Millions are spawned every year in outback creeks and billabongs. Few survive to adulthood, but enough to make the population grow at an average of more than 20% a year. And as they grow, their toxic glands grow with them, until the toads almost overflow with venom.
If you look very, very carefully, you can see the little black dots, and those black dots are the openings to the contents of the gland, and when that is squeezed, the venom squirts out, can go for a distance of over a metre.
Toads breed in water. In springtime, male and female toads gather in large numbers around ponds, marshes, and ditches. In the sexual embrace called amplexus, the male toad clasps the female from behind. The pair swims about as the female, swollen with eggs, selects a site for depositing them. As several thousand eggs are expelled from the female's body in jelly-like strings, the male fertilizes them with sperm. The jelly surrounding the eggs swells in the water until each egg is covered with a thick coating. This acts as a float to keep the eggs near the surface of the water, where it is warmer and there is more oxygen. In a few days, a tadpole will hatch from each fertilized egg. First, the developing tadpole grows longer. Then, the body and tail take shape and the tadpole shows signs of life with small wriggling movements. At this stage, the tadpole does not have any legs and breathes through gills. In the next stage of development, the tadpole loses the gills and develops lungs. Finally, limbs appear, first 2 hind legs and then 2 front legs, and the tail is absorbed. The tadpole has metamorphosed into a toad, able to climb out of the water and begin a new way of life on land. These young toads are leaving the water where they lived as tadpoles. They may never return to it again except to breed.
And Darwin's D-Day is fast approaching. The Australian dry season is coming to an end. This 6 months of hot, arid weather cooks the soil and dries up the riverbeds. Toads can lose up to 50% of their body water and still survive. But Buffo's army doesn't take any chances. The toads hunker down during the dry season, sticking to the shade and digging themselves into whatever moist soil they can find. But the rains are now only days away. And when the skies break, Darwin will feel the full force of the amphibian apocalypse. Ironically, after months of baking heat, the skies finally break. The wet season has arrived, and as water penetrates the earth, something stirs. Rejuvenated by the moisture, the toads begin to move. This season's assault has begun.
Right before our eyes.
After the population declined in the 1970s, we got down to only about 10 wild individuals, which is when we took them into captive breeding. The recovery plan for the white-winged toad has been in effect since the mid-80s. We've got captive breeding We attempt to maintain genetic diversity. We've been doing a lot of scientific research out here to try and determine what habitat they need, trying to improve the diet of the captive breeding individuals.
Because it declined before we really knew much about it, what it needed, trying to understand what was needed for recovery is limiting.
The biggest thing that's hitting the toads right now that we're really trying to understand is a fungal disease called chytridiomycosis, which is actually devastating amphibian populations around the world. You have to adapt, you have to be flexible, you have to learn to change your strategies. And so that's a big part of our monitoring and recovery plan right now, is trying to understand if there's ways to battle chytrid, which unfortunately is a brand new branch of science. We're learning so much.